Prior to colouring, an irregular angled U-shaped section has been pre-lightened using White Up and 6% Colour Develop. This section sits just behind the fringe and into the sides of the head as shown. The rest of the hair has been coloured using 40 ml of 4 medium brown with 20 ml of 5/8 light brown grey and 60 ml of 6% Colour Develop. This will achieve a dark, rich chestnut brown. A regular slice section will now be taken in the pre-lightened area. This is now coloured using 30 ml of clear Intensitone and 30 ml of 3% Colour Develop, which will give a strong canvas on which to work the pixel colour technique. Stippling brush will now be used. This will give a pixelated effect that is one of the keys to the colour technique. The first colour to be used is 30 ml of blue Intensitone and 2 ml of 2/7 blue black, together with 30 ml of 3% Colour Develop. This colour will now be applied in adjacent circles in 2 rows at the ends of the hair. The second colour will now be introduced. This is 20 ml of blue Intensitone with 20 ml of 3% Colour Develop. The second colour is alternated with the first for the next 2 rows. The third colour will now be introduced. This is 10 ml of blue Intensitone, 10 ml of violet Intensitone, and 20 ml of 3% Colour Develop. This will now be alternated with the second formula. Note the first colour will not be reintroduced on this foil. The corresponding colours are applied in a brickwork manner. This will ensure that an even amount of each shade is applied. The fringe area is now incorporated into the technique. Note that the darkest shade is not used here. Is now being applied. This is 20 ml of violet Intensitone and 20 ml of 3% Colour Develop. This will be alternated with the third colour. Is now introduced. This is 10 ml of violet Intensitone, 10 ml of cyclamen Intensitone, and 3% Colour Develop. This will be alternated as before and is applied using a smaller stippling brush. The sixth and final colour is now introduced. This is 20 ml of cyclamen Intensitone and 20 ml of 3% Colour Develop. Once again, alternate as before using the smaller stippling brush to give a softer blend of colours at the root area. is now being applied over the top of this section. Now slide the back of the comb down the foil. This will delicately blend and merge the 6 shades together and is another key part of the pixel technique. The next slice is now taken. Once again, the clear Intensitone formula is applied. This will infuse the 6 shades as well as provide a strong canvas to the technique. Again, use a stippling brush to apply the colour. Note that the brush is rotated back and forth, enabling the product to be applied in a circular form. The colour application is now repeated as before, alternating all 6 tones throughout this section. Intensitone formula is now applied to the fringe. Remember that the darkest shade is not used in the fringe area. This is due to the length of the hair. Here, the rotation of the brush can clearly be seen. Another key to the success of this technique is the amount of product applied, as using too much will give a heavy, inconsistent result. Once again, the foil is applied to the top of the section and the back of the comb is used to gently blend the tones together. The clear Intensitone formula is once again applied to the fringe section and the pixel technique repeated. Another key element to this technique is that the darker shades are always applied to the ends of the hair and gradually become lighter and brighter towards the root. The second will now be applied using the same sectioning and application methods as for the first side. The technique will be demonstrated in the same manner as before. Note once once again how the brush is rotated back and forth, enabling the product to be applied in a circular form. Foil is once again applied and the back of the comb used to softly blend the tones together. Now continue in the same manner as before. The reason a smaller stippling brush is being used when the final two colours are placed in the roots of the hair is to give a softer result at the root area. Applying the fringe area will complete the technique, remembering that the darkest tone is not used in this area. To process according to manufacturer's instructions. 5 minutes prior to shampooing, remove the foil and comb the sections with a large tooth comb. This will ensure that the clear Intensitone is completely covered and a softer blend of colours achieved. Then replace the sections uncovered with fresh foil. And here is the finished colour result, an imaginative application inspired by computer graphics and lasers. The technique gives a fresh, exciting colour result, where tones blend along a single hair shaft.